This is Selectmen's meeting, Goffstown Select Board, December 9th. First meeting of order is pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have one announcement, and this is in reference to the winter parking ban, which is in effect from 11:15 to 4:15. A reminder to all residents, the town's winter parking ban takes effect on November 15th, or took effect on November 15th, and will run through the winter months ending on April 15th. The parking ban is in effect from the hours of 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., and the Goffstown Police Department strictly enforces violations of overnight parking ban. If the weather conditions are favorable, written warnings may be issued during the first week of the ban. During snow removal operations, if a vehicle is parked so as to constitute a hazard, its removal may be requested by the Highway Department. In these instances, the Goffstown Police Department will investigate and make all reasonable attempts to locate the owner. But if the owner or operator is not located, the vehicle will be towed at the owner's expense. If you have any questions concerning the winter parking ban, please contact the Goffstown Police at area code 603-497-4858. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, Derek, we'll go right into the town administrator's report.
All right, your first item is at page 1 of your packet for your consent agenda. You have a letter to the State of New Hampshire Division of Motor Vehicles. This is for release of motor vehicle records for any town-involved vehicles from the state police. This goes to our insurance provider. We need the signature of the chair. You have a contract for abstracting services for 2025. These are the services that the tax collector uses as she gets prepared for tax liening to find mortgage holders and any lien holders for properties subject to lien. You have agreement for dispatching services between the town of Goffstown and the town of Ware for 2025 through 2027. We anticipate that we'll have the remaining dispatching agreements next week. And then you have the contract for the virtualized infrastructure refresh project between the town and WorldCom Exchange Incorporated. The bid was awarded at your December 2nd meeting.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, the motion passes.
At your next page, we have a request from the fire department to appoint a health officer. This is the fire captain of the Division of Community Risk Reduction. In 2023, the board, along with the fire department, modified the job description so that the primary health officer falls under this position. So we'd just be looking for a nomination to the state of New Hampshire for the current fire captain, Timothy Lavoie.
Make a motion to appoint Fire Captain Timothy Lavoie, Division of Community Risk Reduction, as the Town of Goffstown Health Officer.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Your next item is a bid award recommendation from the Parks and Rec Department. This is for the decommissioning of Roy Park Pool. This was put out to bid in October, and bids came back. You have the bid results here from the 5 companies that submitted bids. The Parks and Rec Commission met on November 20th to review the bids and recommended the Select Board award the project to New Hampshire Demolition. As you may recall, that is the same company that removed the blue house opposite the library for the town. The town does not have sufficient funds in their 2024 budget to complete this project. This was not a budgeted project. However, we do have some options. You could budget for it in future years, but the recommended option is to either transfer funds from under-expended lines in the budget, or our preference would be to allocate remaining Invest New Hampshire MPU grant funds for this project so that we can get this under contract in the next week and allocate those funds for that project.
Go ahead.
Question. There's some pretty big discrepancies between the lowest bid and the highest bid. Could we talk about why that is? Rick, do you have the info for, are there differences in what's being provided?
Met with all 5 of these individuals, actually, and every single one of them was told exactly what was asked to be done. They all know it, and these are the prices that they came back with. So I don't know why one guy's 88 and the other guy's 40. I really don't know why.
And they understood that that demo was coming back to us, right?
Yep, yes, yep,
'Cause that's a good, big cost,
huge.
yeah.
Okay.
Peter, did we ask Adam, DPW guys, are they interested in taking it apart for us with winter coming now?
I would, they could be interested in doing that, yes, they could. I don't know if Adam is really, would be excited about that, but it did cross some lips, yes.
The only problem is, Mark, we don't have time to research it now. We only got a week to get this thing signed.
Yeah, I know.
Rick, also, because we don't have the bid specs, was there a date in here of when the materials have to be removed by or any?
No, we didn't put that in there.
Okay. But that included removal of the materials?
What it did is it included the, they had to completely remove everything on site. They have to remove the liner from the concrete, vinyl liner. They have to separate all the material into its, I call it the family they go in, as far as down the road with trash. And they're to haul it all to the transfer station. They are the company.
They're not touching the building, though.
Building's going, everything's going.
Everything's going.
The bathhouse.
Bathhouse, yeah. And all the concrete around it.
All the concrete,
fencing, all that.
fencing, they're gonna fill it, they have to, and the other part of it is they're filling it with sand, and then compressing it, and then we'll loam it and seed it for its next life.
Anybody else?
Nope, they all got the same bid package, the numbers vary widely, but that's where it goes sometime.
Yeah, I don't know what the,
Yep.
they all had the same,
We had no issues with the Blue House, right?
We did not, no.
Okay.
Make a motion.
All right, motion to award the bid for the Roy Park decommissioning to New Hampshire demolition and allocate Invest New Hampshire MPU grant funds to fund this project.
Second. Go ahead, Jim.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
On page 6, you've got a large foldout. We are getting towards the end of the year, and the Invest NH Municipal Per Unit grants. You have really 3 outstanding projects. So the fire department, you on your meeting on October 28th agreed to have Continental pave that after putting that out to bid. Chief Murray has been trying to chase down a contract, and I will support him this week in getting you a contract to sign before your meeting on the 16th, so that we properly allocate those funds in accordance with U.S. Treasury rules. You have the server virtualization refresh. A portion of that came from the operating budget, with the remaining $200,000 from Invest NH funds. You signed that contract this evening, or you had that contract in your consent agenda. And then I'll work with Rick on getting the Roy Park decommissioning project for a signed contract for your meeting at your next one. At this point, you have $12,598.80 that have not been allocated for this project. And if you do not allocate those funds by the end of the year and have them either for items ordered or items under contract, then we need to return those funds to the state of New Hampshire. We are a sub-grantee of the state of New Hampshire on these funds.
Do you have anything in mind?
So there were a handful of items that came up during budget discussion. I know the police department had an e-bike for $3,500 under their crime prevention program. I had made notes and sent this out to the department heads. I had asked the chief about the battery replacement program, and he said they do not need to replace them. They've got them on a continually rotating basis now. So he did not think that that needed to be done. And then the other suggestion that we received from a department head was Adam did say that they've got about 200 or so feet of two-rail wooden post and fencing. Let me see. And this is for the Shirley Hill Cemetery driveway extension. They're planning to add new post and rail fencing to extend what is already there, but the existing fencing is in pretty rough shape, so he could use, what he said, a couple thousands for supplies for that project.
Okay. Is there any portion of that that we could use for some of the town hall items that we had on the list, like
Fortunately, we
painting
don't have
or-
anybody under contract, or be very difficult to, it would be calls during this week to get,
For painting?
to get, and that's the tough.
Yeah,
Two.
not exceed the PO.
Threshold requires anything over $5,000 requires 3 quotes for the project. We've had a hard time getting people to come in and even quote the project.
Okay, let's just kick down on, you kick it out. I don't have any problem with these 2 items, but if you come up with something, that would be more effective by next week, fine. But e-bikes, you just run down the store and buy them. They're not like they're hard to.
No, that's an easy one, and
Yeah.
I guess if we get that direction from the board that you want to move forward with that, what we can do is have the police order that right away, and we can explain that tomorrow night at Budget Committee when they get into the police department, that they can reduce that line. Eric had added that into his 2025 proposed budget.
That doesn't even require a purchase order.
Correct.
So they sell them right there by Ollie's. And I suggest we try to get one close, so that way if there's an issue, we could just take it to them instead of run all over the world.
And if that's the board's preference, a motion would greatly assist us, because I can say the board voted to do this, please move forward with it.
I'll make a motion, we allow, $3,500 or whatever it is for the e-bike to be brought forth.
For the police department. I'll second that
Police
motion.
department, Yep.
I think that it should be more towards the 4,000. Only reason why I say that is because they needed to buy helmets and things like that also.
I'll go 4,000, I mean, whatever.
Pardon me, the bike rack?
Bike rack.
Bike rack for
Oh,
the
yeah.
car, so
Bike rack.
I think we better off.
4,500,
Up to 45.
I'm just saying, yeah.
yeah. no,
Yep, not to exceed 4,500.
Yeah,
Yep.
not to exceed the 4,500 limit.
I'll second that.
And that was just a motion to change the motion, that's all.
Yeah.
Amendment to the motion, I guess.
Yep.
So we have a motion on fit made by Mark and adjusted by me and then seconded by Collis. Any further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
So it'd leave about $8,000, so
Did Adam give an estimate about how much he needs for the Shirley
2,000.
Hill Cemetery?
he said it would be about $1,500 worth of split rail fence from, and he just
Okay.
looked like he was looking.
2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that
We allocate.
we allocate $2,000 towards the Shirley Hill Cemetery materials that are needed for the
Fencing.
fencing.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Jim. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
So do you need, we probably need another motion for the remainder of the funds if,
So what I can do, it sounded like some board members were interested in trying to tackle some painting upstairs.
If it's possible.
And I can try and get that, and then if not, we'll come back with some other item, short term, that the board can order at your next meeting.
Okay.
okay, perfect. Or just, wasn't there an appliance upstairs that could be replaced?
Furniture, we're gonna need a desk if we're actually not
Yeah.
hire an accountant.
So stuff like that we can order relatively quickly.
Real quick on some new business, and this is gonna involve Brian maybe. They have the tabulators that are having that meeting on the 18th.
Yep.
Kathy's very concerned about that and wanted this, because I guess it's not the regular tabulators, it's actually for the ADA stuff. And they're very expensive,
Yes.
from what I understand. So she thought that we should absolutely have somebody who knows a little bit about computers to go up and look at it. And
Oh, the tablets. Is that?
Yeah.
This is
what you're
the
talking
ADA,
about?
the
Okay.
ADA voting tabulators.
tabulated, I mean, it's a whole, so, Brian, are you available to go do that?
So this is the first that Brian's heard of it.
I talked to Kathy today, I just gotta figure out what date it is, but I haven't got that far today to look up what the date was.
So we can work on, if Brian can't get up there, I can. I know Jim had offered as well to
If I'm free, I'll
try and get up there.
Well, the problem, I guess Kathy was saying, it's such a small area up there, it's really hard to get
couple
many,
people and that's it.
that, yeah. So I'm more concerned of that,
Derek,
because it's computer-based and,
what did they do with the old units that we had in the?
So if I can give you a little bit of the backstory.
Yep.
During the last legislative session, there was a bill that passed that each town that uses ballot counting devices had to have these ADA tabulators for local elections. Right now, when we have a state election, the Secretary of State delivers one for each polling place, and we set them up, and at the end of the night, we return those to the state through the state police. Under the law, we will have a memorandum of understanding to borrow the ADA tabulators for the March 2025 election. But after June 30th, the town has to supply their own and have them programmed. So in March, we will pay to have the state's devices programmed. But after next town meeting and moving forward, we need to have our own and we need to pay for the programming.
is that in the budget?
It has been, we did add the programming and the purchasing in next year's budget. And we did put that, and because that is mandated by law, we included it in our default budget as well. Because this was a mandate by the legislature.
How much was it?
So the information is, the programming is between $1,500 and $2,500, but depending on the elections, how many, we have town and school, and lately our town ballots have been quite lengthy due to all the zoning amendments and all the other amendments. So we would need closer to the 2,500. They are doing this, the devices range from $4,000 to $7,000 each. But again, this is a demonstration. I'm not certain, I haven't been as in-depth with this as Kathy has. I'm not certain if they have multiple vendors that are demonstrating, and I'm not certain whether or not the Ballot Law Commission has approved certain devices and certain vendors. So I'd have to get more information on that, but they're doing this demonstration on December 18th up in Concord.
We need a device for each polling place.
Every polling place you have to have.
$14,000 to $15,000.
Yes. Yeah. So we did add this, Kathy was great and got all this information. We did include this in the 2025 budget for the programming in March, and then we figured we would have to buy it sometime next summer. for use in future years.
So if something happened and you had to have a special election for a town office, would we would we be able to borrow them again?
You can borrow them until June 30th, and then there's another part of the law goes into effect. At that point, you're not borrowing them from the state, you're supposed to have them yourself.
So we'll work on that between you and Brian. You said you might go too.
Well, I offered to go if no one else could go.
Yeah, we will make sure that we'll have, it sounds like the board would like have a staff representative at that, so we will make sure that we have at least one staff. Kathy has indicated it's a very small location that they're doing it in, so we're not going to send a lot of people up there.
Okay.
And so I would say that unless there's a select board member that's very interested in going and seeing the demonstration, we don't need somebody from the select board to do it.
I'll find out about it soon enough, I guarantee you that.
And then just
Go ahead. I'm
Just
sorry.
on a kind of a related note, the regular tabulators, there were 2 vendors that were approved by the Ballot Law Commission. One of the vendors is still working on locking down all of their federal approvals for the federal elections. So Kathy will likely come to the board with a recommendation once both vendors have secured all of the approvals so that she can give this board an approval on how we should go.
Okay, a recommendation.
Yep.
Good. All right, so going to the old business, anybody else got new business? See, now let's go to old business. We have the RFP went out, right?
Yes,
So we're waiting on that. We know what the story is on the imaging. They roll it, so. And then, so we're down, progress. Any questions on what's out? Hopefully get our trucks back. The snow out there. Anything else?
There was one other item under old business, and that were the changes to the purchasing policy. At the last meeting, the board indicated, it seemed as though the board was favorable to increasing the amount before a PO or 3 quotes would need. Currently, we have to do that on anything over 5,000, and the board instructed me to ask department heads if they could live with it as $10,000. And all of the department heads said that that would make purchasing easier than having to gather 3 bids on that between 5,000 and 10,000. And they said they could continue to operate under the RFP starting at 25,000. So really what we would be seeking is, the only request would be to up that where you have to get comparative pricing and quotes, written or verbal quotes, to start that at $10,000 up to
So
20.
change the 5,000 to 10,000.
Yes, yes. And then you still have the red line that was presented to you at the last 2 meetings that would have that change, but also has some other language change in it that we would be seeking board's approval on.
No, there was one, I should go get it, but it was that finance director, any purchases, it's gonna be any purchases over 25,000, the finance, or under 25,000, the finance director will, they have to check with the finance director?
So any purchase between 10,000 and 25,000 minus a penny would be, you have to get 3 written or verbal quotes.
Right.
You would have to potentially fall under, we don't call them exceptions anymore. What are we calling those? Yeah, the exception to procedures for purchase orders.
Yeah, you have to have your memorandum that's going to provide the documentation needed for the
Documentation.
auditors and the board.
And that would be the department head, or if for some reason the department head couldn't make that decision, the finance director or town administrator. We don't have any automatic approval by the finance director under this.
So it says the select board designates the finance director, the responsibility the director, the responsibility official for approval of all exceptions explicitly written in this policy.
Yes.
What exactly does that mean?
So in this policy, you're going to see specific areas such as the sole source. If somebody is saying that they're using a sole source, there's no other vendor out there that can do it, they have to document it, they have to attach that to their PO so that it can go with the invoice to provide proof that it meets the qualifications within the policy that the board set.
That's between the 10 and 25.
For
Anything
anything,
over 10.
anything that's sole source, over 10, yeah. And then once it hits 25, it's an RFP, so it's a whole different ballgame. And then there's other things like if they're using a state bid, which is outlined in the policy, they don't necessarily have to get 3 quotes, but they have to document the state bid that it came from. If they have an emergency purchase in the policy that qualifies for an immediate repair, and it's in that 10 to 25, it has to be documented. So it's a lot of documentation of what's already in the existing policy with clearer parameters on how to document that. That's why they added the additional forms to make it a fill in the blank, so that departments don't have to reinvent the wheel starting with a blank memo when they're trying to document a purchase that would qualify under those provisions.
Now, I don't remember, I know I read through it, but when it comes to sole sourcing, was there a parameters to that? I mean, we can't just go out and, call 3 people and only 1 responds, or,
No, sole source, it has specific definitions in here in which they have to show that that sole source is for a specific reason, such as it's a warranty issue and therefore the manufacturer requires we go to one of their regional dealerships for repair. Or a sole source might be, what we have from DPW is the trash barrels, the rare trash barrels that they use. It has to be the exact same model because they have parts supply to maintain all of those. So it's the same exact hinges and wheels and all of that. So it has to be something that's, consistent. It could be, we've seen things like with the radio system where, okay, if Motorola is the, handhelds that we're using, you're not going to go and buy an off-brand. It's going to be the Motorola that works with all the others. So those are really how the sole source is defined in the policy.
so if somebody wants to buy a new lawnmower and it's $15,000, they can't just go get the price from one guy, and
No,
they could, because they're different suppliers in the area that would have that.
correct.
Not under the sole source, if perhaps the state of New Hampshire had gone out to bid,
I get it, yep.
Right.
then you would do it under another category. But yes, most likely that you'd be, instead of doing that, you'd be going out and getting 3 quotes.
Right. A few others that are in there, state bids.
I'm good with it. I mean, I
critical
just-
information, technology,
It can always be changed if it doesn't work.
yeah.
I'll make the motion that we go from 10,000 to 25,000.
Yeah.
So our request is that you approve the amendment to the purchasing policy as presented to the board. The change the board would like is you want to maintain our current quote and RFP levels, increasing the
Lower side to
the
10.
lower side of quotes from 5,000 to 10,000.
I'll agree on what you said.
Seconded by
Second, yeah.
Collis. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
You got anything else? If you don't, I've got one item I want to.
Nope, go right ahead, Collis.
So as you know, we're pursuing a TAP, Transportation Alternative Program grant from DOT for the Village Bridge proposal, and I just wanted to update you on where we stand with that. Let's see, excuse me, I have to scroll down through this to keep up. So if you go into the agenda tracking thing and you go to the Village Bridge, you'll see it'll pull up the agenda for the December 3rd meeting, but if you continue to scroll down, you'll find the dates, the milestones that we have to meet. And if you recall, we submitted the first of them, which was the letter of interest, and we submitted that back in October 25th. So that milestone's been met. Then as we move into November, we'll finalize the application. We have to have a mandatory meeting. It's a virtual meeting. Adam Jacobs is going to attend that virtually.
That's in January.
That is in December.
Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. No, sometime in December. They haven't announced the exact date yet. It just says December 24. But we're aware of it, and we'll be signing up for the Microsoft Teams meeting. Adam will be participating in that. And then the rest of it, you can see, follows through. We're working on those as well. So the committee's been hard at work putting together the application package so we can meet the milestone of submitting the application, which is...
It's my understanding that the Bridge Committee will be bringing forward a draft application
Yes.
to the Select Board
Yeah.
on January 13th and seeking the board's approval to submit the application for that grant program.
Yep.
So right now, they're working to secure some letters of support from community organizations, and they would be coming to you with the full grant application after they attend the grant application workshop and seek your approval to submit the application at the meeting on January 13th.
And the application doesn't include any funding from the town.
No.
There is a local match as part of the grant if awarded, but it is not, I guess, promising, or it is not designating where that match
Makes no
necessarily will
commitment.
come from.
Not committing the town.
Committing.
Makes no commitment.
Yes.
No.
I have one too.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask, I guess this is kind of old business, but the community power, we had that gentleman come in and present that to us.
Yes.
I know we had talked about trying to get some more information for if the municipality was responsible, kind of how it would work, and then the recommended language for a warrant article.
So typically, what most communities do is they form a community energy or an energy committee to look at this. And then the energy committee would come forward with a recommendation, because while that gentleman provided us information about that particular aggregator, there are other private ones as well that you can do community power through, not just that group of municipalities. We have been contacted by at least one resident that is seeking to potentially put a petition warrant article on to direct the select board to create that energy committee so that they can come up with the community plan, and then bring that plan, would go to a town meeting in 2026.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
I think normally, rather than one person coming in and advocating for a very specific aggregator, you normally what you have is you have an energy committee that does that work for the board.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Motion? We're going to non-public?
We do under...
Anybody here for public hearing, public comment? Seeing none, move on.
So yes, we do have one item under compensation, which is A. So